Quorum. We do need 9 in order to have quorum, and I see Chief, so we do have quorum. I'd like to call today's PGC meeting to order at 2:40. I hope you had a chance to review the agenda and minutes. First item of business is to approve today's agenda. I do have a request from TBP Architecture, Phil Newsom and Amy Jane Frater, because they have a flight to catch at 4:30. They asked if we could move them up the agenda so that we could give them ample time to give their presentation and for the council to ask them questions as well. So there is a request to move up the TBP Architecture Facilities Master Plan, perhaps after awards and recognitions. That's one area that we could slot them, so that they'll be able to, again, give us some more information should the council and audience members have questions. Can I get a motion to approve today's agenda as amended?
Motion to approve today's agenda as amended.
Okay, motion by James, thank you. Second by Alan. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the amended agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, thank you very much. So again, the TBP Architecture Facilities Master Plan presentation will take place after the awards and recognitions section. Thank you very much. Moving on to approving March 17th minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the March 17th minutes?
I have a correction to make, so I could make a motion with the suggestion for correction.
Okay, go ahead, Karen.
On page 3, under new business, the resolution supported a request of Balboa Reservoir. Under discussion, there are 4 items. The second one who says, council members who spoke in favor of this resolution believe that since the board did not receive any direction, believed implies that there wasn't necessarily a factual basis for that. Here's what I would suggest instead. Council members who spoke in favor of this resolution stated that a board member had asked for a recommendation from PGC on their resolution. Would that be acceptable?
Can you repeat that, Karen? Council members
who spoke in favor of the resolution stated that a board member had asked for a recommendation from PGC on this issue.
And Karen, if you want to make sure that we have the exact wording, great.
Okay.
So we have Karen's motion with the amended correction to 8A.
Second with that amendment.
Okay, seconded by Chief Barnes. Any other discussion item? The discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of approving the amended minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, motion passed. Thank you very much for that correction. Okay, we're gonna head down to Chair's report. I have 3 things I'd like to share with the council. Looking ahead, our chancellor's not here, so I'm skipping the Chair's report. Looking ahead, we have 3 more meetings scheduled for this semester, April 21st, May 5th, and May 19th. I know that last summer, last June and last July specifically, there were 2 meetings per month last summer, PGC meetings. So I just want to bring to the council's attention that we might need to add additional meetings this summer for us to come together. Hopefully we will have quorum in June and July. But I just wanted to ask the council to give that some thought. And of course, we do need to have a discussion in terms of identifying and confirming the June and July council dates. Okay, but I just wanted to give you all the heads up that we need to give some thought to having meetings in June and July. Okay. The second thing I want to note is that after today's meeting, again on Tuesday when the PGC Agenda Review Work Group met, we looked at the plans and reports to be presented to PGC in the next 12 months. It's a document that we will be sharing with the PGC and we will be posting online so that folks, again, PGC members, alternates, and community members have a sense of what's coming to PGC in the next 12 months. So again, the Agenda Review Work Group have been working on this document. It is a dynamic document. We will continue to add, but I think it's good to put it out there for folks to know what lies ahead in the next 12 months. So that document will be added to the PGC webpage, and you all will get a copy as well. And when the Agenda Review Work Group continues to meet, we will continue to finalize those reports and plans to be coming to PGC for your information and approval. The last thing I want to comment has to do with our external and internal survey of the PGC and its standing committees. As you recall from last year, last May specifically, Pam Mary did a survey with external and internal members of the PGC and its standing committees. So May is coming around, so we do need to do it again in terms of asking PGC members and alternates and the standing committees, to do a survey to see how we're functioning, to see how we're making progress, so that we can again improve on what we stated in our list of recommendations. So we're going to do that survey again in May. Okay, Chief Barnes will be leading that work group to look at the survey questions, and we would need 1 representative from each constituent group to work with Chief Barnes to look at, again, the survey and come up with a plan to distribute the survey. Chief, would you like to say anything about it?
Just briefly, what we want to do, we'll just spend a little time kind of going over what we gleaned from it and then what we think we improved on. And with that in mind, take a look at the questions and see do we need to add, adjust, or what have you. Are people having time to see what we've done the past year, to have some input on those same questions or some slightly different. So we don't expect it to be a real in-depth meeting for us in terms of taking up a lot of people's time, but we don't want to just put out the survey. We want to take a look at it and see what we think. So if you could, I think we tentatively scheduled the meeting for next Wednesday at 1. So I'll throw it out now. So if you can think of somebody who could join us from your groups, and or if that time doesn't work, let me know. So what you can do is whoever you choose, you might just tell them that's when it is. If it's problematic, have them get a hold of me and see what we might need to adjust. And we hope this will be a 1 meeting, maybe 1 or 2 hours. We can report back here that we're ready to go in May with the survey.
So again, we would need somebody from classified, somebody from faculty to work with Chief Barnes to review the survey questions and provide recommendation.
Again, put the survey out before everybody gets out of here. So we want to do it first week of May and give everybody a couple of weeks to get it done. I think 8/20th was the date that we had.
Yeah, the first 2-3 weeks of May would be a good time frame, perhaps. Lillian?
This person that we're sending, is it someone from our PGC group or is it anyone?
Last year, the cycle involved somebody from PGC on the work group.
I imagine an alternate, someone on the group or one of the alternates, I think. Look around for our alternates and see where they are. Yeah, so somebody, you know, close to the same knowledge.
Any other questions about this external internal review work group? Again, we just want to close the loop and look at our list of action plan. Okay. Thank you very much. One last thing, and again, I'm not going to take up too much time, but we'll talk more about this in 2 weeks. As you know, the self-study restoration report is being drafted, and it's getting closer to the deadline. And the question for the council to give some thought about it, and we're not going to discuss it today, but the question to the council is, what do you want to do with the restoration report? What do you see the council's role in the restoration report? I will turn to Lily, since Lily is the co-chair, and we talked about this at the Agenda Review Work Group. We do need to pose this question to the council in terms of what you see the council's role with the restoration report.
So, in asking this question, it also has to do with perhaps meeting in June. So if you guys felt and we, wherever the authority for that is, but if you guys felt the PGC needs to absolutely vote on and make a formal recommendation on this document, then I assume that you want to do that when the document is more close to being done. And since it's not quite done, and since for the academic senate, we're not going to vote on it until May 25th. So it would be very difficult for me as a representative, if you guys wanted to vote on it, to come in here and vote if the executive council has not done what it needs to do. And then I'm not sure what the classified schedule is, but if all you wanted to do was have a presentation on what's in the self-evaluation, then you could possibly do that in May and maybe not schedule something in June. That was the context of the conversation. So it depends on what the role of PGC is in the self-evaluation.
So again, we want to bring it to your attention today, and we'll have more of a discussion in 2 weeks so that we have a better sense of guidance. And I think it's fair that we give you notice in terms of what's the role of PGC with regard to this specific restoration report. Okay. Thank you very much. That's my chair's report. Any questions? Okay. We're going to move on to awards and recognitions. Lillian?
I would like to recognize Stephen Brown's horticulture and floristry students for the fantastic arrangements that they made available. I think it was an art gala. Yeah, and now they're on display. That's Japanese performance. Yeah. And I would also, in that recognition, like to extend some recognition to student Katie Gilardi, who is
Katie's
who, whenever there is something fantastic happening, is there with your camera and making all of those pictures available to us. So thank you for that. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lillian. Other awards and recognitions from the council, from the audience? Okay, thank you very much. We are now going to, again, give 30 minutes to Amy Jane and Phil to give their TBP Architecture Facilities Master Plan presentation. And again, this is an opportunity for the council to hear what the plans are. And of course, they will be providing more of a context, and we will have more information in the next few months in terms of the progress, and we will keep the council apprised of where we are next semester after they have, again, conducted their work. Okay. So at this point, I'd like to invite Phil and Amy Jane to give their presentation.
Here comes Amy Jane.
Oh, Amy Jane.
on the facilities master plan. I'm an educational facilities planner. And the purpose of the presentation today is to give you sort of an introduction to the purpose and the process and the participation in this facilities master plan project. We're working with a working group of representatives from the college. The core group is the Capital Projects Planning Committee. Is it just been through there? Let me bring it back here. Okay, so the core of the working group is the Capital Planning Improvements Committee, and you see their names there. There are also resource members who are being added. So far we've got Madeline Mueller, Pam Mary, Jessie Bell, and I know a couple of other people are going to be invited. And the facilities department has invited students, but we've not heard back from them yet, so we're going to have to go track them down and bring them in. The consultant group that we represent includes a core group of architects and planners, and also the consultants, largely engineers who are going to be doing facilities condition assessment. So big group of people working for you. So the purpose of the facilities master plan is to provide a broad level roadmap for future facilities development, all in service of the educational master plan. So it addresses such things as modernization of your existing facilities, renovations, replacements, new construction, and then all of the site and circulation improvements that you need to support that. It addresses both the main campus here at Ocean and all of the centers and all of the district's properties. Spoken through it again, I'm sorry. Okay. Some of the main points that the facilities master plan is to address is to provide a 21st century learning environment that focuses on students, that is a creative, living strategy that will give you a general guideline, but also provide opportunities for you to be nimble as opportunities present themselves over the next 10 years. For example, you're going to be undergoing a lot of changes. You anticipate that your enrollment will grow, and so there will be different opportunities along the way. So the idea is for the strategy to take advantage of those opportunities as they're arising. To modernize your existing facilities, to extend their serviceable lives, and also to include the community in decision making. That means both the college community, students, faculty, staff, administrators, as well as the public and local community organizations. Facilities master planning is required by accreditation standards, and we know that you're all very busy working on your accreditation reports now. Facilities master planning is part of your integrated planning cycle. So at the top you have the educational master plan. You've probably seen this chart many times before. So it starts with the educational master plan that guides everything. Then you add to that, or you use that to develop your enrollment plans, and then you have resource plans. And facilities planning is one of those resource plans. You complete the cycle with evaluation. Our plans, are they meeting our needs to support our educational vision? So this master plan is used for then more specific planning when you get down to the project level and the funding level and scheduling projects, and coming up with such things as campus standards and design standards. Okay, so let's talk about what's in a facilities master plan. First of all, you look at the needs. What are the facilities that you have now? How are they working to support that educational master plan? And how could they be improved to better meet that vision? Then there's a space needs analysis. You have a lot of space, but is it good space? How can you make it into good space? How can you provide either what's in your existing facilities or in replacement of new space? The quality of an environment that you need. And then you use that information to develop goals that support the educational master plan. So the kind of things that you work on are diagrams. And you sort of pick apart how everything works, both from an engineering perspective and from a functional analysis. How does everything flow to support us? You look at state standards for space, and you compare that to the spaces that you have, the different types of space. Then you come up with a list of goals. Then you move on to options. Now that you've identified these needs, what are all the different choices that you can think of that would address those needs? What are all the different approaches that you might be interested in? You pick those apart. At each location, come up with alternatives. So you see that diagram up at the top. That's different alternatives from the same campus. You pick that apart and you come up with your preferred alternative. What is the best configuration? You turn that preferred option into the solution, your chosen pathway to develop facilities in the future. So you lay it out and make a picture of it and understand what the functional relationships between those facilities are. You break it down into all the parts and pieces. Those are the projects. Come up with the costs, and then come up with a phasing plan so you know sort of what's our roadmap for how we're going to get all this done. For example, if you're going to go out to a bond, for a bond campaign, you might need that information. And you also come up with a phasing plan based on your priorities and your opportunities for funding and so forth that are going to come up in the future. So you have an idea of how you're going to get all this work done. So that process entails needs, options, and solutions. At each phase of this project, we're going to involve participation, a lot of input from both the college community and the public. So what we're planning to do is in the needs phase, we're going to be doing interviews, we're going to be doing meetings and informational meetings such as this one, and we're going to do a survey in May, a college survey. And we're going to be using a media campaign and a direct contact campaign to entice all of you to participate and give us your responses. During the options, that will happen in May. Okay, in the options phase, we're going to be working on that over the summer and into the fall. We're going to have extensive series of workshops in September and October. And then we're hoping, or our idea is now, that we'll have that chosen pathway developed and have a draft ready for the college and the public to look at in about January and February. That's a little far out, so that's a little far out in terms of the timeline, so that's fine. Put together a website with information about the project that gives you an overview, gives you resource material, and then we'll make announcements about upcoming events that you might participate in. That's already up and running, and we're going to add a feature to it so that you can sign up for the mailing list. I was advised to make this presentation brief in the interest of time, but I can tell you more about what we're doing in the needs phase now if you have time. Or I can take questions, or I can do both. What would you like?
Questions from the council?
So just so I can clarify my understanding, so your firm is essentially developing the overview of all our needs and where we'll be going, and then after you've completed that final plan, then there'll be RFPs, RFQs sent out for each of the projects that you have identified.
Yes, Actually, once we're done with the facilities master plan, then you need an implementation plan, which talks about such things as how are you going to fund it, how are you going to schedule it, who's going to be in charge of doing these things, what are the regulatory hoops that you're going to have to anticipate, what are the sustainability standards, the campus standards for space, something like a classroom standard, design standards so that you have a look and an atmosphere that fits your personality, and other planning, and then going out to individual projects and RFPs, yes.
So I was wondering, as follow-up to that, where do our our current projects that we're working on fit in? How will they fit into
Ooh, good question.
your master plan?
Okay, so it's asking how do our current projects fit into the facilities master plan? When you identify the needs and identify the goals, then it's an opportunity to look at your planned projects and see how they're fitting in. Some of the projects may have been developed in previous years and have been brought along and refined along the way. This is another opportunity to refine those projects based on the opportunities that you're expecting that are going to come up. So it might be a chance to, for example, update them. You might also find projects that you've already done. You've seen some projects on the plans that we already checked this one off, so forth. So we'll have a chance to look at those and reconsider them and you know, improve them. Now.
My name is Karen Stagnor. I'm the Department Chair of Library Learning Resources. So the survey in May, having to do with facilities needs. I, of course, put a fair amount of information into the program review that we wrote last year, and we'll put information in the program review again about our facilities needs. Is that something that you will be looking at, or I have to make sure to redo that information?
Yes, we've told that program review will be available to us. It's being compiled now, and we're told that we're going to get that after the end of May. So we're going to be going through all of that too.
Okay, because I didn't see that listed as one of your inputs there.
Yes.
And the other question is about the form in which I would be providing input. So we have library space at most of the centers, right? But not at every center. This has been an issue for accreditation. We've sort of carved out some space for libraries in some places. But I need to know now, right, if you're going to be expecting me to provide to you within the month of May really solid information about what the needs are at all the different locations throughout the city in terms of facility needs for libraries. I don't have that. It's like that's many weeks of work for me.
Great question. My job is to make that so easy for you. So, for example, in the example of she was asking how we're doing program review, we're identifying these needs. I know that I have needs at certain locations. How am I going to communicate that information to you? One, I'm going to be doing a analysis of your current space inventory, and I already know that you have a need for more city library space. I'm going to be looking at how that is distributed throughout the district. Also going to be doing zoning maps so you can sort of see how it's laid out and identify where you need more library space. We had an interview with Chris Cox yesterday to do sort of a preliminary overview. We're doing site interviews at the Ocean campus this week and talking to, starting with preliminary information with the uses of the facilities here. So I will come to you as sort of a basic information of what you have and what you don't have, so that you have a basis to start talking about it. And because the facilities master plan is a high-level document, you don't have to come up with all the details right now. It's appropriate to know that this is something
going to be of my feedback versus the survey versus a document and so forth. I'm very happy to hear you talk to Chris Cox. He was our acting dean. Actually, at the moment, he's the department chair of library information technology. And I did not know you were coming to talk to folks. I would like to have been included. I'm wondering if that means you're only going to be talking to administrators and not really faculty.
That's a good question.
So much, 'cause, you know.
We're trying to talk to as many people as we can, and the needs process will continue on into the summer. We have a lot more work to do. I'm going to have information on a survey that will pertain to specifically your question. I'm still scheduling meetings. I don't have my entire schedule filled in yet, but yes, you're on my list.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, yes, faculty and department chairs are on our list.
So if department chairs want to make sure that they individually on your list, how would they contact you?
Through Ron Gerhardt. Through Ron Gerhardt's office,
So I
yes.
should let Ron Gerhardt know that I want to be on your list.
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay.
And I know that you're asking me a question right here now in this meeting because you're seeing me here. we're gonna make that easier too. Gonna put our minutes at about top
Well, this is the first time hearing about this, so.
Exactly, yes.
Nothing has been
We're-
sent out, no
actually,
announcement has been sent out wide as far as I know that.
Right, because we're just starting.
This is going on, so.
Right, right.
Other questions from the council, then I assume want to ask the audience if there are questions.
How about the students? What are you doing about the students?
I'm spending the day with students next week, talk to both students, associated students, and students relative to student services, in addition to talking to student services, faculty, staff, and administrators. So one of the problems we've been having though is the availability of students to schedule a meeting because they're very busy. So what we've been doing is basically dropping in on them. We drop in on them, I'm dropping in on them at the student union and in the cafeteria and in the gallery and in the hallways and in the library and in the parking lot and going to them because they don't have time to schedule time for me. So that's what we've been doing so far. But that is kind of a problem that we need help with, is getting students on the work group committee and getting time with them.
The issue is when you say dropping, you are talking about one associate student council, which is the Ocean campus. But
Yes.
we're talking about the whole district here. We have many campuses, and the best way
Yes.
to have contact and to do outreach to students is through the executive council and through myself actually. I am the chair of the executive council, and
I would love to have your help.
we meet every Friday, and in this way you can have contact with all student leaders across the district and get the right inputs, because one campus doesn't make a city college.
No, I'm sorry, I should have told you that we're also going out to the centers next week also.
It's very hard.
But I would definitely appreciate your help, because it's been like herding cats.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you. And I'm sorry, you're one of the members of the board of trustees, is that correct? Yes. Tell me your name so I can put it on my notes.
Should I say this?
Okay. I'm gonna be tracking you down. Thank you.
Other questions from the council?
So far in this process, what information have you been given? What information do you expect to be given about future enrollment projections? Because all these plans are supposed to come together on the planning, and one of them is an enrollment management plan, and that's going to influence directly facilities plans. Where is the future projections for enrollment? Have you been provided those already?
No, not yet.
Where are you expecting to get those from?
The state projections, the college projections, and the most recent current enrollment.
Because the state projections just came out last week, they just did the master plan, that's got us growing by 33%. We've got a college that's actually trying to shrink itself right now. And you just said in your presentation, rightfully so, well, we got a plan for a future of growth. So one of your challenges in the short time frame you have is that it's not going to be just compiling a accepted database of information. It's going to be having conversations about that future projection, so that by the end of the year, even at the 50,000 foot level, we're in agreement on that. I don't know how you're going to do that in a time frame you're not available.
No,
What help do you need?
It's
Because it's going to be.
It's more practical than it sounds. Here's how it goes. You have the most recent data about the actual enrollment. And then you have the state projection that only goes out like 7 years, but it gives you a percentage of growth each year. And then you have the college's projection of where you want to go in the future. So, okay, don't laugh.
I'm laughing because the college projections, you're going to see 8 different projections in a few minutes here.
Yeah, you and every other college we've ever worked with, so it's not a problem. So, and I mean, everybody's concerned about that, and that's a very important thing to add to every facilities master plan, so you're absolutely correct. So, I haven't seen the numbers yet, so it's hard for me to answer your question specifically, But one of the benchmarks is how big has the college ever gotten? So that's a benchmark to look to also. And then where do you want to go in the future? So those are other benchmarks. So we calibrate the plan to those benchmarks along the way, because you're not going to get there all at once. You can't just go from 0 to the top. You have to sort of take it on a trajectory.
I guess, can I follow up on? So I guess maybe what the clarification I'm seeking in that answer is, ultimately the plan will have multiple projects on the campuses.
Yes.
And each, we'll just call it building, will have, via your plan, what our needs are for space, including growth over the next 10 years and so forth. And then that project, that will be then put up for an RFQ or RFP, right? Somebody else will come and bid on
Yeah, a lot more will happen in the interim. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I guess what we're trying to determine is, when you're developing what the baseline that people will be bidding on is, will there be a fixed-ish number of space needed so that anybody coming to build for us would have?
Oh, yeah, yes, yes, absolutely. You give a space program to anybody who's going to come and do a project. Let me give you, the real answer is, I haven't done it yet, so I don't have anything to show you. I really need a picture to show you. It's very hard to just talk it through, so forgive me, I'm not. But I'm coming to, please come to the next meeting. Yes.
I want to be clear,
Yes.
at this point, the query and the looking forward is about recognizing that at this college, we have a lot of things that are shifting over the last couple of years, and in the time you're doing this report.
Exactly.
Our square footage for office space by one area is ridiculous versus our square footage for classroom space, because we've got buildings that we're shutting down that are being used primarily for offices right now. And in the time you're doing this report, all those people are going to move over from another campus, supposedly, and that's going to change our other ratios. So it's really like chasing something very dynamic. The answer is not, tell us what our future enrollment's going to be, but how can you give us back the data that we give you in a way that makes a very difficult conversation understanding what we have and where we've shifted? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when I ask you what data you're going to use, it's not
Yes.
what the projection is. It's
Right.
in a year's time. How are you, I'm hoping that there's going to be a solid giving back of whatever you're given in a way that allows us as a college to
Yes.
actually form ourselves and say, we recognize there are extra lab spaces in science over here unused. These ones are over impacted. That's going to help us come up with that RFP.
We know, we anticipate, we've been told we will probably get an array of projections that we can incorporate into what we will show you. And again, I don't know how to explain it, I'm not showing you a picture. But yes, all will become clear, I hope.
I just want to do a time check. We have 6 more minutes for this item. Are there other questions for ADJ from the council? I do want to acknowledge the audience. Do you have any questions for ADJ? So
I have just one last suggestion.
Karen?
I see you have a graphic in college.
Oh no, I took off cones and did not take it off. Okay,
Not a good omen, right?
forgive me. My best pictures for presentations come from that particular master plan, and I know I've been crossing out that name, and I guess I forgot to cross it. Forgive me, please. Sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Unfortunately, I was at conference 2 weeks ago and I recognized the buildings that I drew in the layout, so the name is not
Did you
quite
catch me
enough.
again? Oh.
The name's not quite enough. I appreciate all the efforts of, and all of your plans for getting feedback. We might like to see a feedback plan in writing so that we can see, so that each of the constituent groups can actually see the places where we need to plug in, maybe make some time, some arrangements for people to be there, especially when things are happening over the summer, and also to just make sure that 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 all of our, not our concerns about the facilities, but our concerns about the actual planning process, we have the opportunity to kind of see that plan and all of the steps that are being taken.
That's a very good point. We're coming up with a communications plan that we're now revising. We came in with one set of instructions from the RFP, and then for one reason or another, largely because you have such a crushing workload with accreditation, availability has been an issue. So we've had to sort of change gears and do a lot of the technical work behind the scenes first while we were so busy, and then rearrange the schedule. So we are rearranging the schedule to make that much more convenient, because we don't want to get in the way of the accreditation stuff. So yes, but exactly what you said, it's called a communication plan. That's what we're coming up with now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Comments from Participatory?
We've been involved with this and I said we're looking forward to starting to see the conversations and the data start coming together so we have something real to start discussing.
Last comments?
Comment. Just I think that it's really important that you coordinate with our trustee, Simmons, to get the input from the students. I think you will get a real input from all the students who do that.
Are you a student?
Yes, I'm
Are
sorry.
you available?
My name is Salvador Ortiz. Yes, I am
Okay.
available. We have all of the
I'm going to buttonhole you.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have
Please.
with all of campuses have an associate students, and we hold meetings. Like in the case of the Vision campus, which is the campus that I come from, we have meetings on Tuesdays, every 15 days. And yes, each campus has different times and days, so maybe Trustee Simmons knows more about their meetings. And it would be really important, if you could go to our different meetings that we have.
Are we having one next Tuesday?
Yeah, we have one next Tuesday.
Mission, right?
Yes.
What time of day is your meeting?
The time is at 12:30 p.m. So room 109.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know you're in the middle of a meeting. Really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, I'm sure Trustee Simmons knows more about the other campuses too.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Other questions, comments? Thank you very much, Amy
Thank
Jane.
you.
Again, we will be bringing back Amy Jane next semester as we have more information about the facilities master plan. But I encourage everybody, especially the council, to take an active role in helping to shape this project and to the future of our buildings at City College. So thank you. And thank you, Council, for moving up this presentation. We are now going to go back to unfinished business, and I'm going to invite Steve Bruckman to talk about the various DPs and APs. Again, just want to refresh your memory that last month there was the consensus from the Council to convene a VP-AP review work group. So the work group did meet, and Steve is going to say more about that. And certainly we will bring the VPs and APs back to the council for, again, first reading, second reading, and so forth. I'll turn it over to Steve.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we did have our first meeting of the work group. It was a good meeting, but it was just getting started. We didn't have the full attendance. Amongst the administrators, Benicio was there. Elizabeth was not able to attend. Faculty, both Karen Sagnor and Madeline Mueller were there. With the students, I had recommendations that Vivek Narayan and Brenda Stroud joined the group, but neither of them were able to make the time that was set. So we're going to work on getting a time when we can get more people in attendance. And classified, we had not received referral of anyone to serve on the committee yet. So hopefully when we have the next one of these meetings, and they're going to be irregular. We're not meeting every Tuesday or anything like that because we don't have policies and regulations to look at every week. So we will schedule another one when we need to, and we'll try harder to come up with a mutually agreeable date. But it's challenging to get to get agreement on a date and time, because everybody has their commitments and they have their meetings already. So coming up with another meeting time is a challenge. But we'll work hard at it and get participation. So today, we've got several second reading policies and procedures. They've all been reviewed by this group before. And the first one up is the classified salaries and military leave. The only change here was at the end. There's prohibition of incentive compensation. There was a sentence at the end there that did not belong, and that was something that PGC at the first reading had brought to our attention. And so there's really nothing much to say about this policy. We're only adding this language about prohibition of incentive compensation and securing student attendance. Are there any questions? If not, I appreciate a motion to recommend this forward to the board.
Did also mention that we were removing he, she.
Oh, yes. And did we not do that?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes. So that is something that our work group will diligently do is catch those and either use they or their or some other or a more descriptive term and avoid the he she. Yes. Thank you.
Move to approve board policy 4.02 as amended.
Second. So motion by Jeff Lamb, seconded by Benicio. Discussion? Yes, Lily.
If I just find a couple other PCs, can I just hand it to Grace?
Please.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. On favor of approving BP 4.02, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, 2 abstentions. Students.
Who? What's the name?
2 students, Simmons and Salvador Ortiz Solari.
Thank you.
And the name Miriam.
Oh.
Miriam.
Green.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, what's your last name?
She will write.
Okay. Okay, so we have 3 abstentions. Is that correct? Okay. Okay, so the motion to approve BP 4.02 passed. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next one is 5.12, and there was some discussion on this one as well. I think the one of the changes was to on section B. It previously said the withdrawal of registration privileges includes, and that made it without any discretion. So by saying may provide or may include, the privileges are not necessarily all removed. There's some discretion in terms of how that would how and when that might occur. So there's that change, and we probably also corrected some he she there as well. So again, unless there are comments or changes.
We're just looking at the AP, not the BP.
BP.
It's BP.
Oh, so we jump forward to the BP. Yeah, no, you're right.
Are we looking at them individually or separately or together?
We're going to look at BP first.
BP first.
Yeah, so
Did I go to the wrong one first?
I think so.
Well, I just
No, I
in our
apologize.
paperwork, yes.
Yeah.
It's not in order with your.
No, I apologize. Yeah, so yeah, there's the board policy, and some of the language has been deleted. And what a change that was recommended by the PGC previously was the addition of the last sentence. Any services withheld pursuant to this paragraph shall be released when the district satisfactorily meets the financial obligation.
So then if the board policy says shall, and the BP says may, does that create a conflict?
You mean the AP?
I'm sorry, the BP says shall and the AP says may. Does that cause a conflict?
Where's the word may?
So the students or former students who have, so it says,
BP says shall
BP
have
says
grades.
shall have grades, transcripts, and diplomas. That's the second line. Says shall, and in the AP, it says that they may, and that they may include, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
So the AP 5.12, there's one instance in which the may appears, and that's in A.
And B.
And B. I see A and B.
I guess the question is, what's the intent?
So before we go to Karen, I'd like Steve to answer that.
Well, I don't think we actually discussed it in that context in our review group. Karen.
Well, one of the reasons for the discretion, of course, is the size of the financial obligation matters a lot, right? We're not going to withhold grades because somebody owes a $2 library fine, right? And I think you're right that we focus on changing the shall to may in the AP, and in our review group, I didn't really notice that it said will, or said shall instead of may in the BP. I would recommend that we change the shall to may in the BP as well.
The second step.
It's not. The district is not obliged to do it. The district may do it depending on these other kinds of circumstances.
So we have a suggestion to change the word shall in BP 5.12 to may, and there are two instances in which shall are noted in BP 5.12.
So is it a motion or just suggesting right now until we make a motion?
So that's a note that she wanted to bring up, and certainly we can motion that.
For student record, and especially for current students, if students the students that are having hard time to pay for their unit, I thought the college is working on providing those students a time to pay for their financial obligation, to take care of their financial obligation toward the college. If we adopt this, those students are gonna have a problem, especially current students, and we are complaining about student enrollment, and if we are completely having this in the BP, is like we're cutting off those students that they might be going through hard time.
And I think that's to Karen's point with the word may.
Yes, and we have here what's called an administrative procedure, but it's not really at the level of the full procedure, right? This is what you're talking about needs to be developed, right? For instance, there's nothing here that says, if they owe, a $5 library fine, no problem, but if they owe a $20 library fine, we're going to say, you've got to come in and at least talk to us about this before we issue your transcript, right? None of that's in here. So it's kind of an in-between state. It's not just the board policy, but it doesn't get down to that level of under what circumstances does the college actually, and that's something that's changing. And what Steve had said at the time, and I think is true, that level of figuring out how to do this is going to happen like within student development, within the different offices and so forth. And so the goal with this language and of saying may is really to sort of, it doesn't,
To allow flexibility.
but it doesn't explicitly refer to say, and there are other procedures developed that go into the details somewhere else. But that really is the intent.
Yes, but what I don't feel comfortable about is shall have grades, especially current students. That it's even happened to me. I registered for physics classes during the weekend, and I tried to register again, and it didn't let me register. Completely blocked me to register, and it didn't give me a time to.
Carrie, could you repeat your motion?
So let's make it a form, but really what I want to ask you is it acceptable to you if it says instead of shall, you want to make this a motion that it should say may, so then it's like dependent on the policy elsewhere?
I think not only that, we can have may, but it's too strict, it's cutting off students, especially the grades. If, for example, for complete certificate of completion, I will understand, but when you say grades and students are still going through the city college and they're gonna register again, and when you say, for example, if they cannot pay 3 credit units classes, that is a lot of like almost $50 or $160. If they are not able to pay during that week or 2 weeks, and they are having other classes that they need to register, and they are blocked. In the case they are blocked to register because of that, the grades is very, very extreme.
So
I think
the practice has been, right, the practice has been that students are sent notices saying you need to pay this, you need to take care of this. And then if students haven't responded to those notices, of course what I'm familiar with is library fines, right? They're sent notices. But if they haven't responded to those notices, then at some point what gets the student attention is it's time to register for next semester. Oh, I can't register, why not? You owe money to the library. Well, I better go to the library and take care of it. If you're saying you don't want that practice to continue in any shape or form, then you're saying you really don't want this to be the policy. And I think it's very important to get student input on this. And just changing it from shall to may is not going to address that. No. But then then what you're asking for is for the policy to really be rewritten in a way, or maybe what you would prefer is to see something much more detailed than this about, well, at what point would you say, look, the student knows they owe the money, and it's not that they came in and said, I can't pay it, let's figure out what can be done. They've just, been unwilling to even do anything about it. At what point would that be? So then I think you're opposed to having this policy.
So I want to respect the fact that you share your comments. I want to get to James and then to Jeff to get other comments as well.
My only point was when you were looking at it earlier, I think changing it from shall to may gives the students as well as the school a lot more flexibility. So I would advocate changing that word to may.
Jeff, you didn't have to.
Right, I would just draw your attention to the fact that this is in response to or connected with the Title V, Section 59410, that really spells out that withholding grades, transcripts, etc. for non-payment of financial obligations, and it allows for districts to empower their boards to do this exact thing, right? In which. And I think City College has been, and has shown itself to be extremely lenient in this regard, right? And yet we have to have some kind of board policy connected to this. And my reading of this, and I'm going to probably call the question here in a second, that this simply opens the door to allow us to develop a more comprehensive policy procedure component. What dollar amounts, at what point in the semester, the when and the how of it, right? So to me, this is really a very still very lenient, very open, and yet also rather compliant board policy that leads us to the AP as well. So I'd like to call the question and have us vote on the may.
Point of order.
Point of order. You can't.
A speaker may not call the question immediately after speaking for or against the motion.
Perfect.
So
Nice try.
so at this point, I want to ask, are there other members who have not spoken to chime in? Alan and Simon.
Just a minor edit. Right before the last shall or may, the word paragraph changed that to policy.
Yes. This is paragraph. Paragraph needs to be policy. Thank you.
Right.
Simon?
Are we, I want to be clear here because you've lost me a little bit. Are we talking about the VP right now?
We are talking about VP.
Okay. On the VP, Steve, you have shifted to use the term the financial obligation, which is then defined in the AP. The only bit that you have taken that is altered significantly is that in the previous policy, it was clearly stated that the financial obligation or the financial debt was to the district. As it stands, just using the term financial obligation by itself, someone could interpret this to mean financial obligation to a third party. Anything of that nature. That's not the intent, but I think we may want to say financial obligation to the district or financial obligation as defined in AP. Does that make sense?
So in that subsection C, at the end it says, or former student owes to the district.
I'm referring to the BP, which is
Okay.
defined in subsection C of the AP. But if we're passing the BP, not associated with the AP, you could interpret this BP in a different way because it just says financial obligation. Whereas the policy we're striking out was very clear that it's about debts to the district, money owed to the district.
Do I hear a friendly amendment to her motion?
So my friendly motion would be to say financial obligation to the district or financial obligation as defined in AP, and then keep the definition in the AP.
I think to the district might be simple.
To the district might be simple.
Yeah, that's what the codified language is. To the district or college.
Well, technically, yeah. So okay. So I just want to do point of order. So Simon made a friendly amendment to Karen's motion to add the words to the district at the end of the second sentence to BP 5.12. So going back to, are there other comments by council members who have not spoken?
There was also a change to change paragraph to policy.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
On the BP.
So at this point, looking at BP 5.12, we only have 2 sentences.
Right.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we know that this BP is now down to 2 sentences as amended.
If I get the friendly amendment, are you saying have failed to pay a proper financial obligation to the district, comma, may have grades? Is that what you're saying? Where would you put in the to the district?
At the very end of the second sentence, the very
Proper
bottom.
financial obligation shall have grades, yada, yada, yada. Paragraph shall be released when the student meets satisfactorily meets financial obligation to the district.
At the very last sentence. At the very last.
Okay, better. So we have a may at the beginning and at the top, and then just.
So we have 2. Just for to be on the same page, we have the proposal to change the 2 shalls to may. The word paragraph to policy, and to add the words to the district to the very end of this second sentence.
No,
I don't believe that was.
The second shall is not going to change, it stays.
Okay, so it's just one, the first shall in the first sentence will be changed to may.
Yes.
The second shall will stay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
And then, so the only changes to BP 5.12 are only that shall be changed to may and paragraph will be changed to policy. Is that what we're saying?
And
The
then
first
to the district
shall.
is added to the end.
The first shall in the first sentence.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay. Not the second shall.
And so at the end, after obligation, to the district?
To the district.
Okay. So I think that summarizes the discussion. So we have an original motion amended. Okay.
Still on discussion.
We can come back to discussion after we do the call. But we can still have discussion now.
If you call the motion, you can't still have.
You can't still have discussion, so that has to happen before the motion.
No, that's, we do the motion and then we have
There's
discussion.
discussion as well.
Motion's on the floor.
It's on the floor now.
And we need to discuss it.
Yes.
Yes.
We have been
Let's
doing
still
it.
discuss it.
Yes.
So
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
So, again, the grade, we need to put something about the time, about the lapse of time. If it's the same semester, for example, to give students time during that semester to meet their financial obligation. If it's more than that, we have to do some clarification about the grade, the timing, about when the district should may have the grade of the student withheld. That's what I would like to add something
Well,
about.
then perhaps you should make a motion to that effect and see if it's seconded and carried by the group.
Okay, a friendly amendment about having, might have grades and we add the time lapse about to give students during, that's after the semester is over or something like that. Some wording that we give students a time, not in the same, the district may not hold the grade of student during one semester. What we want is to give a time to students to take care of their financial obligation, depend on their circumstances, what they might face that semester. We give them time that they can meet their financial obligation. The following semester, this might help grade and not until that semester is over.
So, it's not sounding to me, if you're asking me to amend the motion, it's not sounding to me like there's a real clarity of what the thing should be. Hold on a second. And so what I would rather do myself is I'm going to withdraw my motion, right? And you may probably should take it to the student and come back with more specific language at another meeting, is what I would suggest. So I'm withdrawing my motion at this point.
So, okay.
So I make motion to table this VP 5.12 until we bring students' input about it and we'll have the correct writing about that.
Okay.
Correct wording about that.
So I want to acknowledge that you withdrew your motion, okay, and I want to acknowledge that we have a new motion.
Is there a second?
At this point, second. Okay, thank you, Salvador. So let's have discussion about this new motion.
Good, yeah. So I'm fearful that including the kind of detail you're talking about in the board policy, that rather that kind of detail would live either in the procedures that would be established by the appropriate office, say admissions and records, or it would live in the APs. So I feel like you're trying to put too much information into the board policy when rather it should either live in the AP and then or in the office in which the actual action would be taking place. So I'm speaking, I guess, against your motion. I apologize for that.
Because we are going to look at the AP 5.12 next.
Correct.
So right now we're looking at the BP. Again, the BP, the purpose of the BP is to provide the board with some big picture policy in which the AP would define procedurally how XYZ
So
would get
tabling this and
implemented.
taking it back to the students, if my assertion is correct, taking this back to the students for BP isn't appropriate because the BP needs to be broad.
I would just suggest that we discuss the AP and then come back to conclude the discussion of the BP. That's my only suggestion.
So at this point we have a motion, we have a second, so we're having discussion now, and I want to acknowledge Karen's comment, but we do need to take action on this motion to again table BP 5.12. That's the recent motion now. So I do need to call for a vote unless there are other discussions that we want to spend some more time discussing. Hearing none, then I will call the vote. Again, so the vote on the floor now is to table BP 5.12 until the students are able to provide feedback with regard to the first sentence regarding the May and a time frame regarding grades and transcripts and so on and so forth. So that is the motion on the floor. Okay, so for this purpose, I'm going to ask that if you vote, please raise your hand. So all in favor of this motion, approving, and all in favor of approving this motion, please raise your hand and keep it up. Keep them up. Okay, so motion to table. So we see, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and motion. So motion to not table. Please keep your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Abstention. So we have 1 abstention. Lillian. Okay, so motion passed. To table this. I do want
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Members of the public aren't allowed to vote on this, correct?
Correct.
You have a member of the public voting at the table right now.
No.
One of the students is not appointed per the agenda nor by the executive council and does not have a vote.
So that is a good point. So again, those who are at the table have been appointed to be members of PGC. So the person in question now is Miriam. So going through with the AS Executive Council policy with appointment, has she been appointed to serve as a PGC alternate member?
As a member, no. But as student trustee, I have the privilege to appoint her as alternate to sit on the board on PGC. I can choose because when the student cannot make it, I can ask other students to come to sit on PGC.
As a member of the Board of Trustees, you're saying?
No, not as a member.
You said
as
student trustee.
No, as student, as a chair of executive council.
Oh, that's not what you said. Okay.
Yeah.
You said student trustee.
Oh, no.
Okay.
As a chair of executive council, I have the privilege to appoint any student. When our students cannot sit on PGC, I can find students that can sit as alternate. And I am choosing Miriam to sit as alternate.
Okay. So I have not read your policy, and I can't speak to it, and I know that your advisor is not here. But I also see an audience member who made a comment that affects the voting outcome.
As an employee of the Student Activities Office and of this college, there's no policy that exists, as she explains right now.
Again,
If she can produce it right now, I will retract my comment, but there is no policy that exists that the Student Activity Office knows of.
Let me hear Salvador, and I want to ask Karen to chime in as well.
I think that the proper channel is that we ask that if this is going to be questioned, that the advisors are the ones who can tell you whether she can appoint somebody to replace any member that couldn't be able to make it today. And I know that there are people who work at the Student Activities Office, but they work for the Student Activities Office. They're not our advisors. So therefore, I don't think they have the right knowledge of knowing whether our chair from the Executive Council can appoint somebody like today.
So I want to acknowledge the comments. I'm not making a decision, obviously. I do not know your policy, and your advisor is not here. But I want to acknowledge the comments you've made. I do want to ask Karen to chime in, and I certainly want to get back to you, Usha. Karen?
So, there's been a real concern about having student voices on the PGC. That's something that has been voiced in some of our paperwork about the PGC, about having student voices here. I know that I would be really disturbed if the PGC were where there's some question and challenge about a student sitting, if we were on a very close vote to say, well, there are 3 students here instead of 4, but we're not going to count that, and we're only going to have 2 student votes on this, and therefore defeat something on a very close vote, because that to me would seem like we're not really interested in respecting student voice here. So I really hope that that's not the way that this will be resolved for this council.
Bushra and then James.
And again, the first PGC that we set on, I had the discussion with VP Santos about when we set last time before being appointed, before students being appointed on PGC. Again, as a chair of Executive Council, I have that privilege to appoint students when I don't have students member cannot make it. I can go and find other students that can sit. And last time, the first PGC, it was the same. And I had this conversation with our advisor, VP Santos, and he said, yes, you may, as a chair, you have that authority to do so. Okay?
So
And
thank
we
you
did
for the comment.
they did sit on PGC without being appointed.
Thank you for the comment, James, and we do need to wrap up
Yeah,
this discussion.
this is just to be short. I appreciate what Karen said. That said, I've also noticed many people around the table who are very into process and making sure everything happens exactly right. And so while I appreciate what you said, I also know that you're often very process oriented, and we get gifted, we do something wrong.
I'm hoping so.
And I'm not saying that anything wrong has been done, I'm just putting that out there.
Lillian and Evan.
Yeah.
Lillian and Salvador. Lillian?
I was taking the time to look on the website of the Associated Students Constitution. I don't see the guidelines here online. I would say that as Academic Senate President, during times when faculty are not here, I do have full appointment powers. And so that kind of comparability is not completely out of line, although it would be nice if we could find the documents online on the website.
If I might interject, I think we do need to move this along. This is intended to be a second reading, so go forward to the board. I don't think it would be a good idea to go forward to the board with a policy regarding student fees and withholding grades and so on with this much disagreement. We would basically be bringing this disagreement to the Board of Trustees meeting. And that's really not the purpose of the PGC. The purpose of the PGC is to try to work these things through so we can present things to the board that have been well discussed. So I think that it would even if we had the votes to move this, I'm not sure that's the best move at this time. Jeff?
Jeff?
Salvador and Jeff. Okay. So yes, since these are issues that are related to students, we are the ones who are going to be affected by these policies or procedures. So it's about holding grades to students or holding our accounts for not complying with the payment. So it is really important that we are listening to us. We are the ones representing the student right now, right? I am part of the executive council, and I agree with what Trustee Kushas is saying that she has the right to appoint somebody. But the real thing is employees are not going to be affected by this. So I don't think that an employee would come and say, hey, you guys don't have the right to appoint public student to represent you. When we are the ones who are being affected by this. So I just want to make it clear that this is a really important issue for students. So
and we recognize that, and we want to do it right.
Yes.
Jeff and then Alan.
So just so that I understand kind of the process that we've agreed to be a part of. This was read, but this has been not only presented here once, but also was sort of taken to a subgroup of the group, right?
The BPAP group that convened last week or 2 weeks ago.
And everyone was invited to participate, or no? I just want to make sure that I understand.
Everyone was invited to participate. The students were unable to meet at the time that we held the meeting. We went ahead and held the meeting because we had a number of people who could make
I mean, I
it.
just want to make sure that,
Yes.
in other words, this is our third, in a sense, our third look at this, right? So I just want to make sure that.
In a sense it is. I think one of the problems that we had here is that the students were not fully participating in PGC earlier in the academic year. So when this came for first reading some time ago, I don't think the students were present. So it's a little bit of an uneven series of events.
No, it's been motion approved and let's send it back and move on. Let's go.
So I want to acknowledge Alan before. Okay. So at this point, again, the vote to table BP 5.12 was 6, 5 no, and 1 abstention. So at this point, the motion as is gets carried to a future date. I just ask that the student representatives, when we have the AP BP review, the next meeting, that you send somebody to attend to provide your input specifically on this particular language. Okay. So again, Steve Ruffin will be sending out an email to try to convene the work group again.
Yes, and I would appreciate if the students were included before the meeting is scheduled, with the time scheduled, because the meeting was already scheduled when they invite the students. So we want to be fair to our students. They are taking classes, and if they cannot miss their classes, it can affect their grade again.
And I want to be completely fair to you, but you also need to be fair to the process. And the reason that the meeting was set before the students were notified is because the students names had not been presented to me. And a meeting needed to be scheduled. I still don't have classified names, so the classified have not been notified because they didn't have their names. But if I had the names of the students sooner, they would have been notified sooner. But going forward, as I said earlier, we will work to have student participation, and we will bring this back at the. I'm not sure that we necessarily need to convene that committee, that work group, to work this through. Perhaps you or a representative might contact me, and we will try to develop some language and bring it forward for a second reading.
So please follow up with that, and we will bring this back when it's ready. So in this light, then, it doesn't make sense to discuss AP 5.12 unless...
Except if people would like to, if people have comments on it that are not pertinent to the discussion that we're having here, I'd be happy to receive them.
So now, again, please turn your attention to AP 5.12, which is, again, has 3 components, A, B, and C. Jeff?
Yeah, I think any conversation here is gonna not be productive, considering that the students haven't looked at it. You're gonna get language that I'm gonna move that we table this and send it back for students.
Okay.
I second that.
You're gonna waste our time. So I move table.
So motion to move AP 5.12, seconded by Trustee Simmons.
To bring it back to BP, so the BP 5.12.
So motion to bring AP and BP 5.12 together after our students provide specific feedback. On favor of tabling AP and BP 5.12, please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any against? Okay, no abstentions. Okay, thank you. We will bring this back to a future meeting. Moving on to BP 8.08, Steve.
Yes, there's a hand. Oh.
Yes, Olivia.
I actually do have some suggestions on this BP, but I would like to emphasize that at PGC we did ask for BPs and APs to be presented together. Is this the one that doesn't have an AP?
Correct. And actually, Kristen is coming up to, to join.
Yep. So that is correct. There is no AP. That said, we have working procedures, right? Because we've been doing this. This isn't a new policy. This is an amendment to an existing policy. But we've never formalized the current working procedures as an administrative procedure. So actually just today, I walked into Steve's office and I said, we've got these procedures, they're up on our website. We've recently made some changes to them, what we believe are improvements, and I want to thank Simon for his recommendations, which moved us toward this. But I realize that we haven't formalized these, and we need to do that. And I know that BP 8.08 is actually in the process of going through approval. Do we need to provide these side by side, which I realize we can't do because we haven't provided you the AP. It would be actually very easy to draft AP 8.08 because I think we would start with the existing procedures that we have currently posted on our website, and then we can take those through the proper process.
So the reason I ask is because some of the language that's crossed out, I don't specifically the annual provision of board review and all gifts received. I don't know if that is moving into the AP, and if it is moving into the AP, then I'm happy about that. If it's not, we're losing a feature by taking that out. There's another board policy I realize that requires annual reporting, but I would end up asking if it requires this level of annual reporting of gifts. Right? There's another board policy that requires all of the board members to fill out a form, and this doesn't. I don't know if it includes the district on that. Right? So there's a feature here that's being crossed out, essentially. And I have questions about that.
And I can say to you that is part of our administrative can I do it like lowercase administrative procedures, informal IAP, I don't know. Working administrative procedures, like the working hypothesis, subject to revision and refinement. That is part of it. So the current administrative procedures require that we report monthly on any gifts above the current threshold of $250. This board policy proposes a higher threshold, right? So we would have to modify that according to the board policy, and that we report annually on all gifts in August. So I think
it's moving. We're not losing it.
Correct. It's currently in the administrative procedures. I see no reason to change that.
So I do want to go back to Lillian's point earlier, and I don't know it was a motion, but Lillian's point earlier is should we have the accompanying AP to the council when we have a BP? So instead of it coming separately.
Yes.
So that was a comment you made.
I did. So I would move, but the other thing is I don't know if people want to discuss this particular thing. I have a suggestion for it that I don't know if you want to take back now so that we don't have to discuss it later.
I think that would be a good idea unless people are opposed to it. Okay, so go for it, Lillian.
Okay, then so the very last line that says, when the stated purposes of the donation are to facilitate such discrimination in providing educational opportunity, I would like to cross out in providing educational opportunity and not limit the discriminatory practices only impacting education.
So can you repeat that again?
It's deleting the last three lines.
The last 4 words. So
that's the last 4 words of the last.
In 4 words.
Right. It says such discrimination in providing educational opportunity, and I would like to not limit the discrimination that's practiced.
So put a period after the word discrimination.
Yes, please.
Okay. Noted. Other comments about this?
Just if I'm not sure about it.
Yes, Jeff.
So if there's a time sensitive component to this that would benefit the district to have this approved and moved forward, is there something timely about this, or is it convenient to wait for this informal AP to grow up and become formal?
What I would say is that no, there's no real time sensitivity. The only issue is really that $1,000 threshold and the extent to which folks are anxious to move that forward. But the truth is, because of the new informal administrative procedures that we've developed, we've actually really simplified the process down from 4 steps to 2 steps. And so it's actually much easier, and it doesn't, the only difference is in how quickly someone will be able to access those funds. That's the big difference. It's a matter of, I think it's 5 look at it, because it's not immediately on the head, but it's either within a month in the case of a donation that's greater than $1,000 or more on, on the order of a week or so.
Thank you.
Okay, Busha?
I have questions about resource centers faced last time they received donation of $500 and they had a problem accessing or spending the fund, they got donation, and the procedure, what I heard, that they have to go through the board to be approved to have that donation to, can we?
That would be correct under the current board policy, which requires anything above $250 to go through the board before they can access it. With the proposed board policy, that threshold would be $1,000.
Okay.
So it makes it definitely,
Yes. Yes.
I think I see Simon was your.
Actually, I do have one small wording suggestion on this. I hadn't had a chance to, but on the middle paragraph, the district reserves the right to refuse to accept any gift. I think it would just be clearer to say to refuse any gift and leave out those two words.
So Grace and Steve, you got Kristen? Oh, thank you, that's noted. Other comments from other council members before I go back to Lillian? Okay, Lillian?
I would like to move that we table this item and bring it back next time with the AP and then immediately take a 5-minute break.
Bring it back with the BP.
Yeah.
with the
AP.
AP.
This is AP with the BP.
I second that.
Okay, motion seconded. Any other discussion?
I'd like to divide the motion.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Thank you, motion passed, and we will take a 5-minute break. Thank you.
So sure, we can